How do set PAs in film get hired? If you want to work in film, you've probably heard, read, or whatever advice you've been seeking, they all say you have to start as a set PA, and they are not wrong. But how do you get hired as a set PA? Who's doing the hiring? How do you go about this? People who are running the set PAs or managing the set PAs are going to be the assistant directors, the ADs. Now, if you want to be a costumes PA, an office PA, a camera PA, those are going to be involving different departments and not the assistant director. Staffing is going to vary when it comes to what ADs are looking for. When they're looking for their staff, they're looking for a key PA, a cast PA, background PAs, and this isn't a big show. If you have more of an indie feature, then they're looking probably for maybe 4 staff PAs who are going to be on the entire time, who have very specific responsibilities, and then a couple of everyday additionals and or additionals when the schedule calls for busier days and more moving parts. Bigger shows, bigger budgets require a bigger staff. And when you're a little bit smaller, like say you're doing a short film, you may be one of 2 PAs. When we're looking for PAs, what we are doing first is we're going to talk to our AD friends, the assistant directors that have hired before and have recommendations and referrals for who we can hire, who can we take. Are they free right now? Are they not on a show? Are they finishing soon? Can they hop onto our show? That's a pretty tight circle, and a lot of people hate that because it's all in the same community, and it's very hard to kind of get in there, the spinning world of like the rotating door of set PAs that are going from show to show to show or movie to movie to movie, and that gets really frustrating for someone who's trying to break in. But once you do, you're in the rotation, and then it's all nice and good, right? First thing is the ADs are going to be looking for the PAs that we already know. So that's our first level of people who we're going to hire. We're going to be like, hey, so-and-so, are you available for this show? We like working with you. The people we already know, the PAs that we already know, the PAs that we've worked with already. The second line of hiring or referrals are going to come from recommendations from, like I said before, our AD friends, people we've worked with and says, hey, who have you had on your staff that would be a really great cast PA or first teamer? The third line is coming from the Facebook posts. We'll post on there, and we can't really find a lot of people. And this happens usually when there's a lot of work happening, and those 2 lines, the people we know and then our recommendations, that's not really giving us enough results. So then we go to Facebook posts. It's very rare that we actually go and post on websites and the film job websites and when we're looking for people. After like Facebook groups and all that, then it starts to go to the staff PAs that we've hired and said, hey, do you know anyone that might be good in this role? And none of those is, okay, we're posting on, I don't know, Mandy or something. It's actually quite rare that we're going to those areas and those film job websites. How the hiring process works. Even when we are going from referrals or recommendations from people we trust, our friends who are also ADs, when we get those referrals, we're still going to want a resume. We're going to want proof, right? So you come recommended. Now you need to back it up with a really good resume and really good experience. So then we're looking at the resume. We're going to decide from there whether or not we're going to want to interview you. Then after that, what's going to happen is you're going to have an interview, and the interview is going to look like either 5 ADs or 3 ADs. So if it's an episodic, you are going to have an interview with 2 sets of ADs and then the second, which is about 5 ADs. If it's a feature where there's 1 set of ADs, there's a first, a second, and a second, 3. Sometimes what'll happen is that maybe there's an additional AD or another second because maybe the base camp needs are very, very big and they're going to be on for the run of the show. So maybe it might be 4 or 6 ADs that you're interviewing with. When you are going to take that interview, be prepared that it's not a one-on-one. It is going to be a group of ADs that you are going to be interviewing with. So be prepared. You have to nail that interview. Interview slots are about, I would say, 15 or 20 minutes. We have to get through all the interviews as fast as possible. Now, when we were staffing up for the Night Agent that was on Netflix, we started interviews at like 9 a.m. and we went to 9 p.m. We really honestly spent 12 hours interviewing people, and we gave everyone a 20-minute time slot. So keep that in mind. Wherever your placement is in that interview timeline for the day, think about how long they've been interviewing. So you really got to stand out and you have to shine during this interview. And one particular person that really stands out that I remember from the day marathon of interviews was a Beyond Film School alumni And I thought she was ready to like jump into a staff role. And she was really good at background. So we were trying to get her into a background position. She was the last interview of the day. And she killed it. She had energy. She was happy. She was happy to interview. She wasn't nervous. And we were like, yes, she needs to be on the staff because she just brings that good attitude. And we wanted someone like that on our staff. Obviously, she got hired. Being prepared for an interview doesn't matter time slot. You have to have energy, right? You have to be able to answer this question. So tell me about yourself. This literally is always the first question when we interview people. Have your elevator pitch ready. And I talk about this in my SEP PA class a lot, and we work on it a lot. It's like you have to learn how to talk about yourself and not be nervous in front of these assistant directors. When you're in this lovely group interview, bringing the energy, being honest, being yourself as much as possible, but also being professional, because you don't want to go off the rails being so much yourself where you're like totally freak us out, which does happen, by the way. Because you have to be able to at least exude the fact that you can keep a professional demeanor. They're going to ask you, so what position do you prefer? You have to answer that question. And you can be like, oh yeah, really anything. Because I think that the more specific you are, the better your odds are of actually getting hired. Another tip about being a really good interviewer is making sure you know what's on your resume. Make sure that resume is up to date, because we will probably have that in front of us when we're interviewing you. So if you want to be an assistant director and you are being interviewed by ADs and you want to be a SEP PA, you want to be on that staff, make sure you express that, yes, I do want to be an assistant director if that is the case. Do not lie, because we're going to know as soon as you're on our staff that that is not the case. And then you're going to get fired or whatever based on like you lying in an interview, which actually you shouldn't be doing that anyways, because it's illegal, guys. Make sure that it's known that you want to be an AD, and you can say it in your elevator pitch. Okay, so tell me about yourself.
So I would love to be a background PA. I have mostly cast experience, but I want to break into this realm because I know as a second coming out of DGA, that's where I'm going to need more experience. I want to make sure I gain experience as a background PA.
That's a really good answer, and I just came up with that right away. I know that is not the case that everyone wants to be an assistant director. I know that for a fact, but it kind of is nice when we have a PA on our staff that wants to be an AD because they care a little bit more, they're going to pay a little bit more attention, and then there's a little bit more of, okay, this is what you can do as an AD, this is how you get better. We know that you're going to want to care about how you're doing. Another thing you don't want to forget, so after you have told them about you, you've expressed your goals, and you've gotten specific about what you want to do for that job, make sure you have a question in your back pocket, and make sure it's not just one. Make sure it's like 3 of them, because here's what's happening is that some interviews will start where they'll tell you about the job, they'll tell you about the show, what's it entailing, how much the money that you are going to get paid is, and then you're like, oh crap, I was going to ask about wage and rate, which obviously that should be the last question on your mind. Just know that you will probably get paid minimum wage. After wage, you're like, okay, well, I wanted to ask about the cast. They told me about the cast. So you want to make sure you have a question that you don't think can be answered just based off what they can tell you about the show. You have to come up with a question that is going to make them think, wow, they're paying attention and they care about this interview and this job. And this has happened to me in interviews where I have been like, oh, well, you've answered all my questions. I actually don't have any more. And sometimes you might draw a blank and be like, you did answer this, this, and this. I can't really think of any right now. That's actually being honest, but make sure if it does come up, like, oh, wait, I did actually think of a question. This is it. So make sure that you have a question ready. All in all, hiring SEP PAs is something that is very, very difficult. And we try to hire as many SEP PAs as possible without interviewing. We try to make sure that it is easy, because I've definitely worked on a couple of different shows where it's just been one AD team and then we all just agree on like, yes, this person, this person, this person, and everyone's just automatically hired. But when you have 2 AD teams coming together, that's when like interviewing comes into play, because those referrals and the people that AD team knows versus that AD team that doesn't know those PAs, they have to come together and interview because the other team doesn't know them, right? So they want to make sure that everyone has the same equal opportunity to be able to get to know the other referrals and the other recommendations from opposite AD teams. Another thing I do want to talk about is you being nervous in an interview. You have to be able to talk to a number of different people about yourself, because I've definitely seen really, really good PAs and really good alumni out of Beyond Film School, and they're really, really great on set, but in the interview they just choke up, they get nervous, they can't talk. You have to practice, and practice with someone who makes you nervous nervous, literally go and be like, okay, I'm gonna ask my friend. And even when you're role playing, if you're getting nervous, that's a really good exercise. So do it. So do those things that make you uncomfortable, because when you actually get into the real interview, it'll be a lot less painful. So that is how set PAs are going to be getting hired when it comes to the union world. In the indie world, it does happen on a smaller scale, but usually in the indie world, sometimes like these slots are very rare and very sought after. So a lot of the times there's just not a chance for interviewing at all, because producers have like 3 people they already have in mind that want to be on the AD team. And it's all about who you know. And it's very, very unfortunate. It's not about that post on a film job website. It's not about that post on Facebook either sometimes. It's about face-to-face conversation. Who do you know and who do you get along with? The relationships that you've actually formed, maybe when it came from doing such a very, very small short film, or someone that you helped out, or maybe you were an assistant in the office or something like that, and then you heard about the opportunities. It's about you getting around the people that can pass your name around, and that is the key. And a lot of people don't believe me when it comes to this. Breaking into the revolving door of PAs that keep getting hired is very, very challenging, but it is possible. And one of those opportunities is actually through my set PA class, because one, this is why I created my set PA class, okay? I created my set PA class so one, I could hire them on the things that I work on, but also recommend them to my AD friends who also need set PAs, right? So that is also what it serves as purpose. They learn, I get a PA, it's a win-win, and then they get on set and they move on to the next one, the next one, the next one, based on like one project that I got them on. So the set PA class is one way for you to kind of break in and break that barrier, because what I do is I bring people in to do like some speed networking, and then they get to know people, and if they like you, that's how they get on different shows. So I'm actually, the set PA class, while it is training, it's also a networking opportunity for you to get around other people that are also want to be set PAs and filmmakers and stuff like that, but then also people who come into the class and they meet you. So that is one way to do it. And the link to my set PA class will be below. There's a lot of information there, and my next class probably is happening soon, so don't miss out.